Welcome, everybody, to the Aravosis Report. John Aravosis here. How is everybody doing? I am hailing to you from Chicago again for the month, visiting Ma here, normally in Washington, D.C., here to talk about Ukraine. Let me get my live going on TikTok. I think that's right. Yes, that should do it. Ooh, hopefully I'm doing it right. Always worries me on TikTok. Boom, mirror, boom, and discussion. Just to remind folks, anybody who's coming new, I go live on TikTok at the same time I'm on YouTube and other places. Hey, G, who was that? I'm not going to pronounce your name. I love when people use names. That was a cute name, the first guy who was on. Boy. Oh, my God. You guys crack me up. You always get me really close at pronouncing your names, and then I look at it and go, I'm not saying that. Okay, that was funny. I mean, it was okay for you to have that screen name, but I ain't saying that. Oh, my. I don't like you either, Lemon Chocolate Sky. Anyway, how are folks doing today? I am doing well. I am John Aravosis here to talk to you about Ukraine. As always, we'll take about a minute maybe for folks just to say where you're all coming from, where you are. And then when the TikTokers come arriving in about a half a minute, I will get rolling. Thank you, Carlos, for the gift on TikTok. I appreciate that. Debbie in England. All right. So, hey, everybody, I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. This is my daily show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, dear Benji, already for that. And thanks for joining us on the Discord yesterday, Benji. This is my daily show where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine, and I use my foreign policy background and my political experience and media experience to hopefully tell you what's going on behind the news, why it matters. Thank you, Louisville, for the gift. I am independent media. I do this for free. So the support I get from you guys helps me keep doing this because I want to keep doing it. And I've been doing it every day, certainly weekdays since the war started. So thank you for that, guys. Please keep the gifts coming on TikTok. Keep the gifts coming on YouTube with the super chats. And let's dive right in. So thank you, December, for that. I will say this really quick, TikTokers, click follow if you want to follow me. You can see I do news updates every day during the day as well. So that's the best way to follow me about Ukraine news. Rest of you, maybe not. All right, guys, let me get rolling here. So thank you for the saucil ball, Cecil. I appreciate that. Oh, let me tell you really quick, too. For subscribers on TikTok, those of you who subscribe, who have the SNN, the Sasha News Network, I will be doing a subscriber-only chat tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, U.S., just to kind of hang out for half an hour and, shoot the bull with you guys. So if you're in the area, please come by. One of the sort of benefits I try to offer subscribers, since you guys are paying something and supporting me. And the other thing is on my Discord followers, the VIP followers, $25 and up, I am going to be finally doing my monthly little get-together Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern as well. All right, guys, let's dive right in. So the big story today, a really weird story. I saw this morning, and thank you, Ginger, for that. I saw it this morning and was reading about it more throughout the day. Some Russian documents were uncovered, and they show what Putin's war plans were. And I mean, what his war planning was, how he thought the war was going to go. And really kind of I guess, let me put it this way. I don't think it's stuff that's totally unexpected, but it's still kind of shocking in the sense of the sort of stupidity of these guys. So the Russians thought they were going to beat Ukraine in 10 days. That was the plan, the Russian plan, according to these documents that were obtained. The Russians thought they were going to win in 10 days. And I will say, look, I mean, we in the West thought Ukraine was going to lose in a few days as well. So I guess in retrospect, it sounds kind of crazy. But at the time, we also thought Russia was going to win. They were going to have a massive bombing campaign by air and cruise missiles. And they thought they were going to, airplane and cruise missiles. They thought they were going to beat Ukraine in 10 days. Then the plan was going to be they were going to annex Ukraine by August. Remember, the war started February 24th. So they figured it would take them, what would that be? August, 6 months. So about 6 months to actually, I guess, pacify all of Ukraine, and then they would annex it. So their plan was months ago that Ukraine would become part of Russia. The country would be gone. Listen to some of the details here. The documents reveal that Russia planned to capture, this is from Sky News, but it's been all over the internet. It's not just Sky News that has this. The documents revealed that Russia planned to capture Ukraine's, thank you, McFadge, for that, capture Ukraine's power stations, airfields, water supplies, central bank, and parliament. Oh, actually, I should tell you too, these documents actually came from the Royal United Services Institute for Defense and Security Studies, a think tank in London. Some Ukrainian input, but this is mostly the London think tank that got these. So the Russians thought they were going to capture the power stations, airfields, water supplies, central bank, and parliament. And there were Russian special services tasked with killing the Ukrainian leadership in terms of Zelensky, thank you, Marcy, for that, and parliamentary leaders, which is something we had actually heard about. Zelensky had said, and I think it was a Time magazine interview several months ago, that they were told that there was a hit squad from the Russians that was in Kyiv looking for him to kill him and his family. So really crazy stuff. Listen to this. So more just for anybody new on TikTok who's coming, I am talking about some recently disclosed Russian war plans for how they were planning the war, what they thought it was going to. Thank you, Graham, for that. How they thought the war was going to go. And it's crazy. Listen to this. The invasion plan reportedly detailed plots to capture Ukraine's nuclear power plants in order to shelter Russian troops. In other words, now this is interesting, actually. Okay, listen to this. So we've been talking about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, and I will show you on my handy-dandy map. Zaporizhzhia is the Ukrainian province down here, but the Zaporizhzhia plant is right up here, actually, right at this bend sticking up here in the river, okay? And it's an area of Ukraine that's occupied by the Russians, and the Russians have been basically occupying the nuclear plant. This is the plant where everyone's been getting worried because the Russians keep bombing it, and they keep worrying, is the plant going to explode? What's going to happen? That's the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. So remember what the Russians have been doing, okay? They've got troops inside the plant. They've got equipment inside the plant. They're reportedly using the plant to actually, shoot missiles and things from near the plant. This is the same thing they did at the Chernobyl plant, which I will show you. Oh, Chernobyl ought to be on my map. Chernobyl, more or less, I'm going to take a wild guess here from what I know, but Chernobyl should be kind of up here, more or less. It's about halfway from Kyiv to Belarus, more or less. So about here on my map, okay? And when the Russians did their initial invasion, when they came down from the south, and remember about a month later, the Ukrainians pushed them back, the really big pushback initially from the Ukrainians, they pushed them out of Chernobyl, but the Russians occupied the Chernobyl nuclear plant, which was shut down after a huge nuclear catastrophe. I mean, the worst nuclear plant accident in the history of the world back in 1986, I believe. And the Russians were occupying Chernobyl, and there were also reports that they had troops inside. They were putting all their equipment near the plant because they wanted to stop the Ukrainians from attacking their equipment, because the Ukrainians would be afraid of blowing up or somehow damaging the plant. So listen to this from the Russian plans released by a London think tank that got a copy of Russia's plans. It backs up exactly what we were hearing. Listen to this. The invasion plan reportedly detailed plots to capture Ukraine's nuclear power plants in order to, 1, shelter Russian troops, 2, gain control over the country's energy system, and and 3, potentially blackmail European countries with the risk of radiation. Now, we've been talking about this, right? We've been talking about this issue of why would the Russians try to hit their own plants? In 1986, that's what I thought, Chernobyl accident. Why would the Russians try to bomb their own plants? And I was saying, I think the Russians would like a dirty bomb accident. Basically, a dirty bomb is a non-nuclear bomb. In other words, just a bomb, right? Any bomb you'd use in warfare, that you've tied nuclear material to the bomb so that when the bomb goes off, it throws nuclear material in the air and scares the hell out of people and causes a lot of radiation problems. Now, it doesn't cause a nuclear eruption. Like a nuclear explosion is a very precise thing with physics and everything. So just having uranium or whatever next to a bomb doesn't mean it's going to go nuclear because it explodes. But it does throw that uranium all over the place, which is really bad and causes a lot of environmental damage and frankly just scares the hell out of people. I always tell people, if you were in your town and you heard that a dirty bomb, what's a dirty bomb? And you heard it's a bomb with plutonium in it or uranium in it, you would leave town immediately because you just assume it's a nuke. Well, that's what the the Russians were trying to do. Anyway, so I think that's interesting. Listen to what, just to again tell folks, what I'm doing is I'm going through some of the details of these new documents from a London think tank that detail Putin's war plans that were never before revealed. Listen to this. The Russian counterintelligence regime, meaning the Russians, had compiled lists of some Ukrainians. Ukrainian. I'm thinking uranium again. Ukrainians, according to the British think tank, the Russians divided the Ukrainians into 4 categories. Okay, thank you for the gift there. 1, those who should be killed. 2, those in need of suppression and intimidation. 3, those considered neutral, who should be encouraged to collaborate, meaning help the occupiers out. And 4, those prepared to collaborate, those who it was already expected they'd be totally on Russia's side and they'd be fine with it. Well, listen to this. So for those in the top category, okay, and again, thank you, Warren, the top category is those who should be killed. The Russians came in, the Russians came in and they had a plan that they were going to find first. They had a list of people who they were going to kill. Zelensky, the top members of parliament. Listen to this. For those in the top category, the list of who the Russians were going to kill when they invaded, they were going to basically sweep the entire country. This is a country of 43 million people. It's not a small country, okay? They were going to go through the entire country. Because remember, they thought they were going to win the war in 10 days. So they were going to win the war. They were then going to go through thank you for the llama there, Louis. That was cute. They were going to go through the country and go door to door and compile lists of every citizen. Okay. They were going to have the list down. They were going to interrogate them. They then were going to set up these filtration camps, which, sounds like concentration camp, to be honest. These filtration camps where they would go and interview every citizen in front of like a military tribunal and basically scare the hell out of people for people to basically spill their guts. Thank you, John, for the gift. And what they were going to do is determine, does this somebody we can trust? Is it somebody we shouldn't trust? Were they an activist? And if they were a lead, listen to this now, okay? The Russians were going to determine, once they'd won the country, they were going to look through, they had lists of people they were looking for. And some of the top people on the list were activists from the revolution in 2014. Now, the revolution in 2014 was when the Ukrainians stepped up and overthrew their president, who was basically a Russian stooge. And it was literally a people's uprising up, scared him out of the country. I think he ran to Russia, of course, to basically go protect himself. And the Russians had a list of these activists, and they were going to arrest them, have show trials. Show trials are basically something out of like Stalinist communist dictatorship, where you have big, television extravaganza trials with the whole country watching, the cameras there, this kind of a thing. They were going to have show trials, and then they were going to publicly execute these people. This was Russia's plan for Ukraine coming in. They were going to execute the top levels of government. They were going to execute all of the activists. I mean, mind you, I'm an activist, like activists, people who simply like students who were in the streets, student organizers. They were going to have show trials of them and execute all of them. Really, I mean, just sickening what these guys were going to do. Let me see if there's anything more here. I don't think there's anything more in this story. It was really, and then finally, listen to this. The final thing the Russians were going to do. Thank you for that. What was that? Hi, Elfia. Hi, Elfia. The final thing the Russians were going to do is they were going to bring teachers and other officials in from Russia to start the, quote, re-education of Ukrainians. Because remember, the Russians had planned within 10 days, they were going to win the war. Then by August, so 6 months in, because they invaded in February, by August, they were going to annex Ukraine. In other words, they were going to make Ukraine part of Russia, and Ukraine would no longer exist. And because, there's 43 million Ukrainians who wouldn't be really happy with that. I mean, there's at least, I don't know, I'm sure there's some Ukrainians that would be happy with it, right? Some traitors, but most of the country wouldn't. They were going to bring in teachers and other officials. I love the other officials. Yeah, I can imagine those other officials to re-educate the Ukrainians. In other words, to make them love Big Brother in Moscow. Really sick. So just to remind folks, I am John Aravosis. You are watching the Aravosis Report. This is my daily show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S., where I talk about the latest news from Ukraine. And then we do a question and answer afterwards for about the last half of the show. On TikTok, you can go to my my profile. There's a Q&A link. Just simply click the Q&A link, put your question there. And for all of you guys on YouTube, you can and the rest of you can submit questions there. And what was I going to say? Oh, my Discord. I will be on my Discord. We'll go to my Discord for a few minutes afterwards. I don't think I'm going to go too long because I am doing the show in the morning. I don't want to kind of mess up my voice. But on the Discord, we've got a number of things up for auction. I'm auctioning things from Ukraine, and we're doing it for the benefit of Ukrainian humanitarian causes. Half the profits will go towards Ukrainian humanitarian relief. I've already raised, thanks to you guys contributing, $2,400 for Ukrainian humanitarian relief just in the auction. And the other half will go to support my work because I am literally doing this for free and I've been doing it every day since the war started. So, other than the weekends now, I was doing it weekends as well for months. So I'm using it to support me as well so I can pay my bills. But just so you know right now, so in the auction currently, I've got some new patches that Vlad sent from Ukraine. Very cool. These are actual Ukrainian military patches. And they're all Velcro because basically they go on the military shirts and they stay on there. Actually, this stays on my sweater. I'm kind of surprised. But on the auction site, I've actually got pictures of the various patches from various Ukrainian officials showing you them wearing the patches. These are the real thing. My friend Vlad in Ukraine was able to get them. So in any case, come over to the Discord, discord.aravosis.com, and check it out. So let's keep going on with the news. President Biden held a press conference today with French President Macron, who is doing an official state visit to Washington. Kind of interesting. Biden made some news during the press conference. I was watching it live, and I was kind of scratching my head going, okay, this is going to cause some news. So Biden gets asked about Ukraine. Thank you, Music, for the flowers. Please do keep the gifts coming on TikTok. Very helpful and supportive. Like I said, that's how I pay my bills, so I appreciate you guys keeping the gifts coming. So Biden gets asked about Ukraine, and I think he gets asked whether he's willing to talk to the Russians or whatever. And Biden says he would talk to President Putin about Ukraine if Putin expressed a desire to end his invasion, but that Biden would do so only in consultation with our NATO allies. Now, what bothered me when I heard it, and I don't know, sorry, I'm doing the TikTok talk. The TikTok talk is Friday morning. Tomorrow morning is Friday. Friday morning at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Central, 11 Eastern is the TikTok subscriber talk. And then Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern is the Discord $25 and up subscribers. Okay. So what worried me about what Biden said was, I don't think there's any problem in talking to Putin. Talking's okay. Doesn't bother me. What worried me was he said, of course, I wouldn't just do it on my own. I would only do it after consulting with the NATO allies. And I'm listening to this and I'm going, okay, I think somebody's missing from this picture. Thank you, Elle, and Beverly up there too. I'm going, I think somebody's missing from this picture. Like the Ukrainians, are you going to, are you going to, are you going to be like consulting with the Ukrainians? Now, I know Biden will, if Biden is going to talk to the Putin, he is absolutely going to talk to the Ukrainians first. He's not going to say anything to Putin, that he hasn't sort of cleared with Zelensky, et cetera. What worries me, though, is the fact that Biden even said that he just kind of left the Ukrainians out of the picture. It showed that he wasn't really thinking of the Ukrainians. He was thinking of the European allies in terms of the war. Thank you, Mikalo. Anyway, it just worried me a little bit. I think it was a bit of a gaffe, but nonetheless, Reuters. So this gas cap thing, when I say gas, I mean, oil cap. There's a, thank you, Carly, for that. Oh, Carly and Lady Lola. This oil cap. So, excuse me, got runny nose. The European Union and the G7 countries, which includes the US, Canada, top democratic economies. Thank you, Carly. Have been discussing, thank you, Sparky, and for the extra noise, have been talking about doing a cap on the price of Russian oil. And the idea is, and frankly, it's very confusing, but I'm finally getting my own kind of handle on it here. It looks like they reached an agreement today amongst the European countries, and now it goes to each individual European Union country, and they've got to get back by Friday and give their agreement. But it looks like the agreement is probably done. Otherwise, they wouldn't have announced that they kind of agreed. In any case, the deal is they have tentatively agreed on $60 a barrel price cap on Russian seaborne oil. So Russian oil that's transported by sea. It would kick in on December 5th. So that's, 4 days from now. It would, well, before I give the details, let me tell you what it is. So the idea here, thank you, Buddy, for that. The idea is to try to cap how much money Russia is making off of its oil. And it would say that anybody shipping Russian oil internationally and buying it via tankers and things like this, right, at sea, would have to agree to buy it at $60 a barrel, or the agreement will automatically shift the price up and down so that the price is always 5% below the market price. So if the market price goes up, the price can go up, the cap. If the market price goes down, the cap will go down 5% below. So that way it's always a price less than the market price. And the way they're going to enforce this, so in other words, the idea is to try to force the rest of the world to not buy Russian oil by tankers unless they pay this lower price, okay? The way they're going to enforce it is that most of the G7 countries, because they're the world's largest economies and the world's largest democracies, the G7 countries have really the monopoly on the following. If you don't agree to the price cap, you will, the G7 cap is going to prohibit shipping, insurance, and reinsurance for companies handling the cargoes of Russian crude around the globe. So in other words, oil tankers themselves are going to be in trouble because they can't even get insurance, among other things, because the Western countries, the top 7 economies, are pretty much in charge of all of this. We would basically try to, it's really complicated. I mean, I wish I had you here as sort of a live audience I could talk to, because I'd be like, okay, hands, because it's really complicated. But the idea is not to overwork this, is that we are hopefully setting up a system where Russia will get paid less than they would normally get paid for their oil. Let's see if it works. Let's see, first of all, if by Friday, not by Friday, by December 5th, and 4 days from now, if the Europeans all agree. Okay. And then moving forward, as I said, the basic idea is it would attempt to force everyone around the globe to buy Russian seaborne oil distributed by boat, by tanker, buying it at a lower price than market price. So we'll see. Again, very confusing stuff. I agree. Russian troops. Okay, Ukrainians are saying that there's more evidence of Russian troops withdrawing settlements in Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Now, this is interesting because Zaporizhzhia, handy dandy map, we usually hear about Kherson, okay? Kherson, the region over here. Well, let me step back a second, okay? Russia invades. They invade all over here. All of this gets pushed back. So these were those early victories that first month when the Ukrainians pushed the Russians back, okay? Then the Russians invade also over here. Down here, they invaded, thank you, Purnell, for that. Down here, Crimea, they invaded in 2014. So this the Russians stole in 2014. This time around, they invade all of this. Well, the Ukrainians, the big fighting that's been going on now has been over here in the east, near the town of Bakhmut. Kind of crazy. I mean, the Russians have been fighting for like 6 months for this stupid town, and all the analyses from all the military experts say, yeah, there's rail traffic there. There's, rail important highways that go through there. But no way is this town in the east, Bakhmut, important enough for the Russians to be fighting for 6 months. They're doing the exact same thing they did with the town of Severodonetsk, which is actually right here on my map. What they did, I believe, with Lysychansk as well. But all the experts are saying this is insane. The Russians have tied up a significant portion of their troops. They have worn down the troops. They've gotten their troops killed. They have used their artillery, right? All of their weapons that they've basically wasted for a town that doesn't matter. Well, in any case, There's been major fighting going on here. And thank you, Johnny, for that, and Suzanne for that. There's also been major fighting going here in Kherson. This is the one we've been hearing about lately because we've heard about how the Ukrainians had some really big success in the last 3 weeks now, maybe 4 weeks. That's here in Kherson. So the Kherson region is here. The town of Kherson is right here north of the river. It's the name of the town and the region, not to get confused. And the Russians are still here south, but they were north of the river as well here. Well, the Ukrainians, came down here, and pushed the Russians across the river. So now the Russians are south of the river. Well, the next province over is Zaporizhzhia. The Russians are also south of the river here. Well, what the Ukrainians are seeing, thank you for that. Who was that? Was that Malto? Thank you for that. What the Ukrainians are seeing is that the Russians are starting to evacuate some of the towns here near the river. That at least suggests, if it's true, that the Russians are getting increasingly worried about Ukrainian successes in the north, okay? What Ukrainians want to do, they want to keep pushing down here, right? They came from the north. They want to keep pushing down like this, push the Russians out of Kherson entirely. And then, the thinking, we don't know the Ukrainian plans, but the thinking is they would eventually want to go into Crimea, which is the real jewel the Ukrainians want back, Crimea, but they would also start going this way into Zaporizhzhia. And it looks like at least that the Russians have started to abandon some towns here on the south side of the river in Kherson, which means the Russians are getting afraid they won't be able to hold their lines, but also some of the towns over in Zaporizhzhia, which means they're also afraid they're going to start losing portions of Zaporizhzhia as well. All of that, very good news, because anything that the Russians are worried about, it's good news for Ukraine. It means, at the very least, it means this winter, hopefully, the Ukrainians will still be making some advances and moving forward. So, big deal. There was a story today, a number of stories actually, about these mail bombs, these letter bombs that have been popping up in Spain. So yesterday, the Ukrainian embassy in Spain gets a letter bomb. It wasn't a very big explosion, which is good, at least from reports. It caused a little damage to the finger of an embassy employee. Thank you, Bonnie, of a Ukrainian embassy employee in Spain. Well, then in the last day, there have now been Spain's prime minister gets a letter bomb similar to the one at the Ukrainian embassy. The U.S. embassy in Madrid gets sent a letter bomb similar to the one. An arms factory, a Spanish arms factory that makes grenades that get shipped to Ukraine, gets something. 3 Ukrainian diplomatic missions around the world have also received threatening letters soaked in a red liquid. And in total, in Spain at least, 6 explosives were sent to administrative or military buildings in Spain. Now, the Ukrainians are saying it's the Russians. It could be the Russians. We don't know. It's a little weird. It also could be some crazy person. Let's face it. It could be the Russians, but it could be crazy people. We just don't know. Just to remind folks, I am John Aravosis. You're watching the Aravosis Report. This is my daily show where I talk about the latest news from Ukraine. And then on the second half of the show, we do question and answer, which we will be doing shortly. If you've got questions on TikTok, use the Q&A link in my profile, please. Thank you, dear Benji, for that. And on YouTube, obviously, the comment box at the bottom. And please do keep the gifts coming. That supports my work. And please do keep following me. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on YouTube, etc. And I do have a Patreon set up. Thank you, Truthful. If you want to help me out on Patreon, I do this for free. I've been doing it since the war started. Initially, I was doing this 7 days a week, doing the reporting for you guys and the news on TikTok. In the last couple months, I finally switched to, I lost my voice, actually, among other things. I finally switched to doing it 5 days a week. But nonetheless, I would appreciate your guys' support. So do check out my Patreon. That's another way to help. You can find my Patreon and really all the other ways to help, my store, my Discord, by going to aravosis.com, which is a link of all my Linktree links. But also on TikTok, even easier, go to my profile. The link in my profile. Thank you, Sharif and Russell. The link in my profile will take you to all the stuff, all my Linktree. Thank you, Vicky, for that as well. So a couple other news stories. 50 Ukrainian soldiers have returned home in a new prisoner exchange with Russia. Norway, Estonia, and the Netherlands. Thank you, Bonnie. Norway, Estonia, and the Netherlands are donating a field hospital to Ukraine. And This is interesting. So the last story I've got here is very interesting. It's a well, thank you, great CFI. Whenever you can, I appreciate it. A new opinion poll in Russia that sounds like the Russians aren't very happy with the war. Now, interestingly, thank you, Carly, for that. Russian opposition media, thank you, Malto. Russian opposition media outlet Medusa, which is very trustworthy. I mean, Medusa is trusted, okay? Opposition media, meaning, they tell the truth versus the government, says that they reported on November 30th that it had gained access to the results of an opinion poll commissioned by the Kremlin, so commissioned by the Russian government, which is interesting. And for internal use, because the Russian government wanted to kind of try to get a sense of where the population was on stuff. And listen to this. It showed 55% of Russians favor peace talks with Ukraine, 25% favor continuing the war. Now, what's interesting with this, Russia's independent polling organization, Levada, which is again, considered, I guess, a good polling organization, although polling in Russia is hard because you are polling a dictatorship where people could get killed or thrown in jail for disagreeing with the government. So, take it with a grain of salt. But what's interesting is very similar results from Levada. What Levada found was 34% of the public favored continuing military actions in Ukraine, 57% favored negotiations. And negotiations meaning instead of continuing the military actions, right? So the 55% in the Kremlin poll, 55% of Russians wanted peace, 25% wanted to continue war. And internal Kremlin polling reportedly showed back in July, listen to this now, the comparison from July to now. Now, July would have been what, 7? Now we're 10, 4 months, 4.5 months ago. Back in July, the percentage of Russians supporting negotiations was only at 32% instead of 55% now. And the percentage favoring continuing the war was 57% versus 25% now. Now, you can say what you want about polls in Russia. Let me put it this way. Russia's a dictatorship, okay? You could get into a lot of trouble for ticking off the government. What that means is, if someone's calling you, conducting a poll, you're going to go, yes, sir, I love the government. I love the patriotic war. Let's have more patriotic war, right? That in a dictatorship, you're going to have a pressure to agree with the government. The fact that only 25% of the people would say we favor continuing Putin's patriotic war when they're under pressure to say they favor the war is shocking. And that, to me, at least, makes these numbers interesting. But it also makes it interesting, as I said, that there was a separate poll that also showed similar numbers. That's when you get kind of interesting, So anyway, I thought that was interesting. So that's what I've got for the news today. I will go check TikTok Q&A and everything else. Submit your questions. Thank you, Maltomesh, for that. The way we do this is the first half of the show. Thank you, John. That was very generous of you. The first half of the show, I talk about the latest news from Ukraine. And then the second half, I take your guys' questions and we talk more about the news. And also, if you guys have input, I always like to hear your guys' input too, because a lot of you are actually military experts who know a lot of stuff as well. And then there's Harvey, who's weighing in too. Thank you, Aflac, for the duck there. Harvey is asking a question on YouTube. Not Ukrainian news. Oh, God. Not Ukrainian news, but Kanye has just been on Alex Jones and claimed the Holocaust didn't happen and the H-man was good. Oh, God. I had heard about this. Thank you for the paper crane there, Jen, and Elle for the hat. What I had heard was I was following on Twitter somebody that was watching Kanye live on Alex Jones, and all I saw was the guy tweet and go, oh my God, I think Kanye just said, I'm not going to say the guy's H-ler, the German in World War II. He goes, I think I just heard Kanye say H-ler was good, and then Jones cut to a commercial really fast. Oh, God. I don't mean to laugh because it's not funny. I got to say this. I had tweeted something the other day about, I don't want to spend a lot of time about Kanye. We can talk at the end. We can, if we want to do a little Kanye talk at the end, we can. And maybe I'll skip going over to the Discord tonight. But I'm not Jewish, and this stuff scares the hell. I mean, it should scare the hell out of you, but I can't even imagine what it's like for Jewish people to watch these kind of conversations taking place and to watch somebody who is as powerful as Kanye West. I mean, the guy's a billionaire, and very influential. I mean, very influential rapper. I worry that he could be very influential with his own community, because anybody would be. I mean, a big star in the gay community would be influential in the gay community. And spouting the kind of racism, I call it racism, bigotry, and anti-Semitism that this guy does. And I mean, the fact that Kanye embraced Milo Yiannopoulos is bad enough, but Kanye embraced Nick Fuentes, which we've talked about, and I've done a number of videos on my TikTok talking about it. Fuentes is akin to the Ku Klux Klan. This guy, this is why I think the Kanye stuff matters so much, is Nick Fuentes isn't alt-right. He isn't some MAGA guy. He's not, I mean, as you can have issues with MAGA and Trump and everything else. He's not just some Republican. He's not just some conservative Republican. He's not just some extreme Republican. Nick Fuentes gets on his show regularly, uses the N-word and laughs about it. Right? I mean, right there, uses the N-word. Thank you for that. And laughs. So I've seen him use the N-word and go, oh, well, guess I shouldn't have said that. Now I'm in trouble. Routinely talks about the Holocaust and how the Holocaust didn't happen. I've told you guys, I watched one episode of Fuentes, and Fuentes is the guy who is now working on Kanye's presidential campaign, and who Kanye brought to dinner with Trump last week, okay? Fuentes, I watched him do a show talking about the Holocaust and how the Holocaust could never happen because, you couldn't kill that many people. And Kanye, Fuentes starts going, let's say you were cooking cookies in an oven. How many cookies could you cook in an hour? And he's laughing about the cookies he's cooking in the oven. I mean, it was sick. It was, I mean, again, and he's giggling the entire time because he thinks it's funny. He's comparing Jews and not just Jews, I mean, gypsies, gays, people with disabilities, lots of political prisoners, lots of people were killed in the Holocaust, but the overwhelming, and not even the majority, the overwhelming number were Jews, like 6 million Jews alone in the Holocaust. And he's laughing about the fact that basically Jews were burned in the ovens. That's who Nick Fuentes is, and that's why people are so upset about Nick Fuentes. Kanye's racism and anti-Semitism and everything is bad enough, but this Fuentes thing is just, it's sick. I mean, it's absolutely, anyway. All right, let's go back to the news here. We'll go back to the Ukraine news, but blows my mind. I mean, I'm going to have to look at that when the show's over. It is, I've worked on civil rights issues since 1992. Thank you, Inspired Woman, for that. Civil rights issues since 1992 nationally here in the United States. And it's just, like I said, that's really scary. This is, I don't know. I think as Americans, we also sort of think that it could never happen here. Everything could never happen here. We always just assume that it's we always just assume that America's different. We're more advanced. Europe had all of those world wars. Sure, America joined the world war to help and save. This is what Americans think, to save you Europeans. But we didn't have those kind of problems like you have. You're always fighting each other. You've got the extremism. You had the NZs. Thank you, Jen. And I think we always thought of ourselves as being, I don't want to say just better than the Europeans, but that sort of American political discourse just didn't get into, sure, we have our problems with, homophobia and everything else, but we didn't get into the crazy stuff, like the NZ party and this kind of stuff. And what we're seeing is this crazy stuff can happen here too. This crazy stuff can, and again, the Kanye stuff, he's kind of getting away with it. I mean, he lost some of his, thank God he lost some of his deals with the companies, but Trump still thought it was okay to have dinner with Kanye. Trump did. Trump brought Fuentes. What did Trump's a Republican presidential candidate. What did Trump pay? A couple Republicans criticized it. They left Trump's name out. Most of them didn't criticize it at all. Anyway, all right, let me keep going here. All right, we can talk about this at the end. Like I said, let me go back to the questions here. So Q&A on TikTok. I hear there is a lot of partisan warfare going on in Melitopol. What I do know is that the Russians are getting worried about Melitopol. So Melitopol, remember, all of this is occupied. Okay, Melitopol is the town over here, right? Crimea, Kherson, Melitopol. It's either just in Zaporizhzhia. It might be just in Zaporizhzhia. I forget whether it's considered Kherson or not, which region it is. I do know that the Russians have been digging in significantly around Melitopol in order to basically stop the Ukrainians from being able to advance. The Russians are very concerned. They've been digging in around Mariupol. They've been digging in around Melitopol. They've been digging in here at the border with Crimea. What's interesting, and when I say digging in, I mean putting lots of defensive, trenches, these dragon's teeth to stop tanks from being able to cross. What is interesting about that is we're talking digging in here, digging in here, digging in here. The thing is, the Russian line is all the way up here, right? So the Russian line is here at the river and then cuts over. They're digging in all the way down here, which is suggestive of the Russians being worried that eventually, why am I constantly licking my lips? Because my lips have been dry for a month and it's driving me crazy. But that the Russians are worried that the Ukrainians are going to make some significant attacks that are going to push all the way down to these cities. So that's all I've heard about Melitopol, was that the Russians have been very concerned about the Ukrainians eventually getting down there, which is interesting. What else we got here? What else we got? Look for more. You are very welcome. I'm seeing people say thank you on TikTok. Thank you. Thank you for saying thank you. And please do follow me on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere else. I keep forgetting to ask. Follow me right now. Follow me there so you can, it helps me out, but also that way you can see sort of my updates. What you doing, dog? You can see my daily updates when I also do my video updates throughout the day. Yeah, exactly. L Cool J licks his lips too. There you go. See, I'm cool. What is the current state of Russia's economy? Do we know how long they can realistically maintain this conflict? We don't. Thank you, Flower Lady, for that. The one thing we've seen is the actual GDP, which is the growth in the economy. The Russian economy, it shrank like 4%, which isn't that much. I mean, we were hoping it was going to go, I think, 15% or something like that. So that ain't very good. Okay, that was not much. But I was talking about this recently, and we've not seen, actually, I shouldn't say that. There was a recent analysis, I meant to read it. It came out like a day or two ago, and I meant to read it, but it was like the actual paper on kind of where things stood with the sanctions and how they're affecting Russia. But I have not seen, and it would be a really interesting question, of what is the current thinking. Sasha, go on in there. Go on. My mom's. I'm sorry, but I've got the dog bed under my work area here because the dogs like to sleep here, and my dog likes to stay here. Mom's dog is in the bed underneath, so I hear my dog, and all of a sudden I hear, and she's pissed off because Mom's dog is in the bed. Of course, sitting there just looking around happy, and my dog, go on in there, go share. You can go in there. She thinks I'm going to kick Mom's dog out, and I'm not going to kick Mom's dog out. Oh my God. Anyway, but we have not seen, and I'm not sure why, that reporters have not done, here, come on up, have not done a better sort of recent analysis on just where does the Russian economy stand and where do the sanctions stand? Because this stuff can't, look at all of our economies and how worried we are and how people are suffering because inflation went up and everything else. That's just inflation. Sasha, come on, go sit in there. That's just inflation. Imagine what the Russians are going through, right? But we kind of are acting like, well, they're kind of weathering it, whatever. So I really don't know. I don't know. But it's a really good question. And I'm surprised people aren't, sort of the journalists and stuff aren't reporting on it more. I know Sasha Alert, she's still, oh my God, if you could just hear her. She is very not happy underneath here. MT History Buff is saying Russia is attempting to harden some semblance of a supply line too, but it too will fall to Ukraine. Well, I do know. I mean, there was all sorts of supply issues in terms of the supplies that Russia needed to build a lot of its military equipment, let alone everything else. What was the figure? Oh God, I'm forgetting what the figure was. Russia's, thank you, Malto, for that. There was an interview with the woman who I believe is the head of Russia's central bank. Okay, if there's a woman who's the head of Russia's central bank, then I'm remembering this correctly. And she was talking about how, and this is now maybe 5-6 months ago, and she was saying how, yeah, the sanctions haven't hurt us a lot yet, but they're about to. And she was saying, and I forget the percentage, but the percentage could have been 75%, it could have been 90%. And she was saying of the goods made in Russia require, at least in part, some input that comes from the West, and how it was going to be extremely difficult to make anything without the sanctions now, because the Russians, they couldn't get the Western machinery. They can't get the Western machinery fixed. I mean, their airline industry is a disaster right now. So, and the whole airline industry and everything else was going to affect just the supply of parts being sent around Russia. Thank you, Malto, for the hedgehog. So, anyway, like I said, I'd like to see more on what's going on with the sanctions. Yeah, Ben is saying it hasn't been a year yet. The sanctions need more time to hit the economy. Yeah, I mean, I agree, but it does seem kind of weird, because you'd think, massive sanctions hitting any economy, you would have thought, well, actually, let me say two. The other issue is that the Russians, okay, seriously now? I took my dog out before you guys know this who watch me regularly. I took the dog out before the show because she does this to me. She kind of she's getting older, and she has, oh, wait, now you want to play? I figures, yeah. First she wanted to go out at the door, and now she's trying to get me to play. We're not playing right now. No, play with Kukla. God, sorry guys. If you watch my show enough, the dog is an integral. The dog isn't. Well, no. Now she's just trying to play. No. A minute ago she was at the door going, I need to go out. Then, because I was sitting here, she gave up, and now she's sitting here barking at me, trying to get me to play ball with her. Hey, stop. I don't have it here. It's over there. She's barking at me and then looking down, like, get the ball. Oh my God. Anyway, hey, it's just something you got to deal with. If you are a fan, hey, Sasha, come up here. If you're a fan of my show, the dog is an integral part of this whole experience. So, all right, let me find it. Thank you. Now I'm going to show you to everybody, since we just went through. Oh God! Since we just went through all of that. This is Sasha. She gets a little annoyed when I pick her up. Okay, that's okay. I'll let you at least say hi. But she does not like getting picked up. Oh, well, see, she's yawning, but with a dog, yawning with a dog is often a sign of nerves. So that could have been like, she kind of wants me to play and everything else. Thank you. Okay, you can lay down. No, come here. Come lay down. Here. God, she came to lie down next to me, and I pet her, and she thought I was picking her up again. How does Russia get computer chips? Good question. I know that they've been trying to, and I think they tried to beef it up, their own computer chip industry, but you can imagine Russian computer chips, ugh. So you would have, and China does not have China has been trying to build up a computer chip industry, but China does not have very good computer chips. I mean, it's Taiwan, right? So the question is, right, Mikola from Ukraine is saying they're getting them from China, though. Okay, interesting. Yeah. Okay, there you go. But I know the Chinese ones are considered not anything as good as the ones from Taiwan. But again, I guess this is Russia. So glad you got your Sasha shirt. Lovely. And I just ordered one as well. I've got it coming shortly. That's right. The whole issue with Taiwan, isn't that true? 5 different reasons for yawning. Yep, just like us. What else we got going on here questions wise? Let me see here. Hold on. Get my glasses. Do you think these Russian plans, which some were confirmed as used, filtration camps, Russian teachers, etc., will finally at least silence negotiation voices in the U.S. or West? No. The question there is, I'd started the show talking about these Russian invasion plans that were found, that were detailing all sorts of things that basically Putin thought the invasion was going to be over in a week. And it wasn't. I mean, it was going to be over in 10 days, and that by August, meaning months ago, they were going to annex Ukraine and make it part of Russia. And the it obviously didn't. But so part of it was going to be that they were going to then once they occupied the entire country, 43 million Ukrainians, they were going to go through and send the Ukrainians through these camps, kind of scary language, to check each of them out individually and see if they were good people or bad people. And what Copies is asking is, is this the kind of thing to finally get people in the West to stop saying negotiate with Russia? I don't think so. I mean, oh God. There was Scholz in Germany, the chancellor, kind of did two things today. One, I think, was good and one was less good. He talked about how, we must continue to support Ukraine and whatever, which was great. He also kind of gave that talk again about how, it's important for us to basically live with Russia and get Russia back into, and I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Eventually, would I rather have another Cold War, or would I rather have Russia be a sane contributing member of the international community? Well, I'd rather have them be a sane contributing member of the international community. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. And I think Russia's going to need a revolution for that to happen, because otherwise, any deal that's reached on Ukraine, Russia's going to start a new war in 5 to 10 years. And we're going to get sucked back into this all over again, So anyway, yeah, Elise is right. Elise says, I really wish that Allied leaders would talk about the stolen children every day. Yeah, it's the Russians have been literally stealing Ukrainian children as part of their whole effort to basically dismantle Ukraine. The figure the Russians gave a figure of over 200,000 Ukrainian children that they took. Oh, Mom's dog left the room and my dog just jumped into the bed just for a quick little dog update. It was very funny. It was like, boom, very sly here. The Russians themselves admit that they have taken 200,000 Ukrainian children into Russia, and they claim it's to protect the children. They didn't have parents. They didn't have this. They didn't have that. They were orphans, all this kind of garbage, right? But so the Russians themselves admitted 200,000 children they took. I mean, and it's a war crime. Yeah, it's a war crime. But what bothers me is the Russians have committed so many war crimes. I don't quite understand how you even reach a deal, right? How do you reach any kind of deal between Ukraine and Russia? Because you're still going to have the international community coming after Russia for the war crimes. And, nobody can stop that. It's anyway, ugh. I don't know. I mean, yeah, on the oil tanker thing, who knows how the whole thing's going to work out. Aqualimus, I just don't know. Yeah. No, I don't mind. I saw today that one lane, Rob Wallace saying one lane of the Kerch Bridge is set to open December 6th with the other lane on December 20th. That's what they've been saying. However, there apparently has been limited work on the railway, might need another boom. Yeah, so the Kerch Bridge is that bridge that got blown up maybe 2 months ago now. We don't quite know who, but we assume it was the Ukrainians. Kerch Bridge, here's the town of Kerch right here. This little peninsula here from Ukrainian Crimea. Crimea is the territory the Russians stole and occupied 2014. So the Russians are in control of this. Well, even though you don't see anything here, Russia is over here. Russia is also over here, okay? And you've got water here and water here. Well, the Russians wanted to connect Crimea to Russia. Well, Russia is, I think you guys had even looked it up for me, maybe 12 miles of water between Russia and Ukraine here, the town of Kerch in Ukraine. So Putin built the Kerch Bridge back in 2018, and Putin was very proud of this bridge because it helped cement that Ukraine was Russia and this, because now they're connected and this kind of garbage. Someone 2 months ago blew up the bridge and caused a lot of damage. Didn't blow it up entirely, but caused a lot of significant damage. The Russians are now claiming that 12 miles, thank you. The Russians are now claiming that the one lane of traffic, basically there were 2 lanes, one direction, 2 lanes the other. 2 lanes in one direction collapsed into the sea. 2 lanes the other Still not clear how safe it is because you're talking about the beams and everything underneath holding it up. There was a massive explosion, massive fire, this kind of stuff. The Russians are claiming that one of the two lanes that collapsed will be ready December 6th and the other will be ready around December 20th. Maybe. I mean, they're liars, so I don't really trust them. I also don't necessarily trust Russian engineering, so maybe they're going to be open, but I wouldn't drive on them, but who knows? The bigger question, what Rob is saying is, one of the questions is, what about the railway? There was also a railway on top going two different directions. And that was just, I mean, there was a train going by right at the right time, whether Ukrainians timed it or what. Beautiful fire. NATO bombing of Yugoslavia was spot on, justified, and absolutely 100%. Since somebody's asking and being kind of a jerk about it, Yugoslavia was committing genocide against Kosovo, its neighbor. Used to be part of the same country, not Yugoslavia, Serbia, actually, not Yugoslavia. These were all parts of Yugoslavia. And the Serbs were committing genocide against the Kosovars, and NATO came in 1999 or so and launched an air campaign against the Serbs and stopped them in their tracks. So the Russians and the Russophiles, like the Serbs, kind of like to drop in and bring that up, like, oh, you think the Russians are bad? Look what you did in Serbia. And it's like, yeah, we stopped a genocide. And if you think we're gonna like respond and go, oh gosh, wish we didn't do that, you're woo. Anyway, what do you do? That's why it was off topic, but I did see somebody mention that, so I just had to say it. Where Kharkiv is on the map, you think you want to drink, Laka? Kharkiv is all the way up here. Kharkiv is Ukraine's second largest city. Biggest city is Kyiv, 2.5, 3 million people. Right here, Kharkiv, right here. Now, what's interesting is this is all Russia right here. So Kharkiv is literally like 15, 20 miles from the Russian border. Mind you, it's Ukraine's second largest city, 1.5 million people, and it's 15 miles, maybe 20 miles. And mind you, 15, 20 miles is, 35, 40 kilometers or 30 kilometers. I mean, or maybe even 25 to 35 kilometers. I mean, it's nothing, right, to the Russian border. And you've got your second largest city of 1.5 million people right there. And the Russians have been just, destroying Kharkiv. But fortunately, the Ukrainians were able to push them back further, at least, which is good, further basically to Russia. I thought so too. So somebody whose name I can't pronounce is saying that isn't buying Russian oil at a lower price supporting Russia's ability to wage war? Yes, I think the issue is a couple things. One, there was fear of plummeting the world economy into a depression if we cut off oil to the entire world, right? I mean, that's the issue. So there's no way to do it. So they were thinking, well, what could we do? Well, maybe rather than stopping countries from buying Russian oil, which would mean countries wouldn't have oil, maybe there's a way of limiting the oil revenues that Russia gets from those countries. And the way you do it, in theory, is setting up these price caps, with the European Union just did or is trying to do, and the G7, which are the top world's economies, including the US, Canada, are working with them to try to set up a price that's lower than the market price for Russian oil that goes by tankers, so seafaring oil. So yes, you are right. It would be better to cut off all oil entirely, but the reason Russian oil has not been cut off entirely is it's just too important for economies, European economies, let alone economies worldwide. It's just too important. So yeah, you're right though. And it's not good because it's Russia's big way of making money. That's what that's how they make their money. Yeah. Well, actually Mr. White is saying the same thing. The idea is not to stop people from buying it. But that's also, but I was explaining why the idea is not to stop people from buying it, because what the person was asking, what C4Z was asking, is why not stop people from buying it? Wouldn't that be a good thing? Because then Russia doesn't make any money. The problem is the world economy going when nobody has any oil, right? So, it ain't good. Who's super chat, Roshin? Or are you just going to tease me? Or is that the one I just did? CZ's? Is it CZ's? I'm going to guess it was CZ's that I just did. If not, let me know. Yeah, I just did C4, Z, whatever. I just did theirs. What else we got here? Okay, sorry, seeing. Elisa's saying, I think Russia's economy has been much more damaged than the latest GDP figures suggest, and making almost no new cars will not be popular there soon. Well, that's the thing that I don't know. I mean, we were talking about this. So the figures coming out of the West talking about Russia's economy were that I believe Russia's GDP, which is basically economic growth, is the best way to sort of just describe it in a layman's term. Russia's economic growth decreased 4% this year. And it was like 4%. I mean, that's not good, but Ukraine's decreased 25% or something like that. I mean, a horrific amount, right? So it gives this impression like the sanctions didn't really do much or everything else. And that's what we were talking about, Elise, at the beginning was, there's got to be more going on here that I wish journalists and The Economist would both dig into about what's really going on with Russia's economy, because it can't be doing that well. Mind you, a lot of it too was that the Russians were help pumping up the economy, spending money at home and this kind of stuff, but you can only do that for so long, because a lot of their, like half of their currency reserves were frozen, and the Russians do lie. Yes, Ed Robinson, that's true too, but, I thought you wanted to, excuse me. Woo. Oh, interesting. I was gonna look at that. Roshin's weighing in and saying the U.S. Appeals Court rules against Trump in the documents fight. End special master appointment. Oh, they ended the special master appointment. Oh, interesting. A U.S. Appeals Court on Thursday reversed a judge's appointment of a special master to go to vet the documents. This is the whole issue of Trump having all the super classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, that's interesting. Wow. Well, everybody was saying that the judge's decisions and everything seemed kind of crazy. I mean, meaning legal experts are saying it was just very weird, and she kept losing in the appeals courts. That's very interesting. Well, that's going to speed up the case then, not having the special master. Wow. Now, Trump could try to appeal it to the Supreme Court. He probably will, but I don't think it's going to make any difference. I think the Supreme Court's going to go, this is, who cares, basically. Well, that's the hope. I mean, Vincente is saying, isn't crude oil a major export of Russia? Yes, absolutely. So if that is hit, like Ukrainian grain is getting hit, wouldn't Russian GDP take a large hit as well? Yes, the question becomes, how much is Russian oil really being hit, right? Hello, dogs. Hi, Kukla. What do you want from me? Now, Mom's dog is doing her little trick where she sits here and makes noise at me to try to get my attention. They've traded places here. So, yeah, I mean, the question is, how much are we really cutting off Russian oil? That's the question there, Let me, oops, I will do a quick, stop. Don't you dare. Stop. I told you, this is like when I've got the emu, the woman who does the emu videos when a bunch of her poor animals died, when I've got the two dogs here. Kukla, Mom's dog, is at the door, whining at me, literally sitting here. You guys, I can show you guys. Hey, stop. We'll see. And then I've got Kukla sitting here all pissed off. And my dog underneath. Sasha, stop. Kukla, stop. Stop. Come here. I know. Relax. Hey, stop. Stop. No. Come here then. Come. You want to come up? Come up. Come here. No, Kukla was whining for. Come here. Get over here. She's fine. She's fine. Kukla was whining for my attention. My dog got jealous, and that's when things escalated. So now I'm dealing with, so this is, okay, fine. I've got Mom's dog sitting on the chair next to me. So now at least we've got a little bit of a break here. Oh my God. It is funny. It's a total battle for affection. It's very funny. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's literally like having two little kids. And I don't blame mine. Mine gets very jealous. I mean, I'm hers, and especially at home, I'm hers. There's nobody else there, and then she's got to deal with competition. All right, let me do a quick rundown of the news. At the end of the show, I like to just go through the news and go boom, 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 top headlines that we talked about today. And then a reminder, I'm not going to do the Discord tonight, I think, because my voice thing, just to be careful. But tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central, 11 Eastern, I will do a TikTok for subscribers to my TikTok. There's a TikTok also has a subscription feature that people can pay a monthly fee to help support me that way. And I will do a private hangout just with you guys tomorrow at that hour. You'll be the only ones able to access it. And then Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern time US, I will be doing a video hangout on my on Discord with the $25 and up subscribers on Discord. The Discord's free, but some people pay a monthly just to support me and get a little bit extra area in the auction that they can basically bid and everything else. So that'll be, and you can find that really easily. That's in the VIP section of the auction, and you'll see John's monthly video chat or something it's called. So that's easy to find. You can find all of those, erevosis.com. That's my link tree, all my links, erevosis.com. You'll find everything there. The store, I've got a store with very cool stuff in the store, including this shirt we based on the Russian trolls. Russia is losing dude, which is spelled incorrectly, losing and dude, because the Russian trolls would constantly come in the TikTok and they'd say, Ukraine is losing. And they would spell it wrong, losing, Loosing. And we just found that to be the funniest damn thing. So, and the other thing is dude, because the Russian trolls love to say dude and bro or bruh. And they clearly were given talking points to sound American. But imagine somebody who isn't fluent in your language, but somebody gave them like slang words to throw in. I mean, slang is not an easy to use. Well, the Russians just screw it up. So we had a t-shirt made by Wendy, who's among you. Wendy made a wonderful design that's Russia is losing dude, because they'll always throw in dude at the end of a sentence when it's totally inappropriate. Like, dude. So anyway, that is one of the things being sold on my Poppy. There we go. Poppy. Wendy is Poppy on TikTok. Poppy a day. So she designed this shirt and actually many of the other shirts that are on the that are in my store over at store.erevosis.com. But you can find all the links via my link tree, the link in my TikTok profile, but also just erevosis.com gives you all the links. All right, let me give you the quick summary here. 1 second here. All right. So the news of today. British defense and security think tank has revealed details of Moscow's pre-invasion plan for Ukraine, which showed, among other things, that the Russians thought they were going to win in 10 days and that they would annex all of Ukraine and make it part of Russia by August. It's now October. They didn't succeed. President Biden said today that he would talk with President Putin if the Russian leader expressed a desire to end his invasion of Ukraine. Reuters says that the European Union has tentatively agreed on a $60 a barrel price cap on Russian oil to try to limit the amount of money Russia makes from exporting oil. The Ukrainians are saying that Russian troops have been withdrawing from some small towns in the Zaporizhzhia Oblast, which is interesting because it again would show that the Russians are getting worried about the Ukrainians pushing further south. There were more letter bombs across Spain today. Yesterday, the Ukrainian embassy received a letter bomb in Spain. Today, the U.S. embassy did. The prime minister of Spain received one, his office, and a number of other Ukrainian buildings, Spanish buildings received them as well. 50 Ukrainian soldiers returned home in a new prisoner swap with Russia today. Norway, Estonia, and the Netherlands donated field hospital to Ukraine. Russian opposition media outlet Meduza reports that an internal poll conducted by the Kremlin, or conducted for the Kremlin, shows that 55% of Russians favor peace talks with Ukraine versus only 25% of Russians who favor continuing the war, which is very interesting. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go so I can go see how dinner's going inside. As I said, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning, I will be on TikTok for a subscriber only for people who actually are paid TikTok subscribers. We'll be doing a hangout just with you guys, half hour, 20 minutes, half hour. We'll just hang out, see how it goes. Just hang out and chat, whatever you want to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about Kanye and Twitter. And then Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern will be with my Discord VIP members. But these are the VIP members that are $25 and up. I think that the Bayraktars, what are you? My Bayraktars and my, I'm already forgetting. My Slava Ukraini, my Bayraktar, and the other one I'm forgetting already. Tomorrow will be 11 a.m. Eastern. 11 a.m. Eastern. I will check in. So 10 a.m. Central. We'll do a little coffee. What I call it a coffee talk on TikTok for coffee talk. Coffee talk. Where we hang out, grab a cup of coffee. We can hang out. Europeans, you can grab something else. It'll be in the afternoon for you all. But if you're paid subscribers only, just to thank the paid subscribers. And the same thing as I said. So Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern for you all on any of you all on Discord who are the paid subscribers, $25 and up a month. All right, guys. All right, let me go. Thank you so much for the gifts. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, moderators. As always, I know your job is always fun. So thank you all. And definitely go and check out. Like I said, I've got four new auction items up in the Discord because Vlad sent me another care package. So I've now got additional Zelensky shirts, the Zelensky combat shirts. I've got new ones, including some very large sizes. Discord. I don't want to do Discord tonight. Nah, you know what? Because I can feel my voice a little bit. Since I just did the recap. You missed it. I just did the recap of 2 minutes ago. But let me skip the Discord tonight because I'm going to be doing tomorrow morning anyway. And then Saturday, I'm going to be doing another one with you guys. I'd rather skip Discord tonight just so we don't push it. Okay. So, all right, guys. I will see you all tomorrow. All right. I mean, by the way, you guys can go to Discord anyway if you want. I mean, the Discord folks, I don't have to be in the room for the room to be active. So feel free to go hang out a little bit if you want. You can plot the overthrow of my Discord or something if you want, like my UN staff did with me. All right, guys. See ya. Bye, guys. Yep.